to rezone this site here at 7399 Empire Boulevard in the Crown Heights South section of Brooklyn Community District 9, just a few blocks west of where we are today. So just to orient everyone to the site, so this is Empire Boulevard here, this is McKeever Place, this is a 50-foot wide street here, and to the north is Sullivan Place. So we're right here on the corner of the site. Of course, I just want to say from the get-go, you know, because we are close to the Brooklyn Botanic Gardens, and everyone knows what's been happening with that other application at 962 Franklin. We sent our application to BBG, they've analyzed it, and they have no objections to the project. So we're very happy that we're not going to be having adverse impacts on the Brooklyn Botanic Gardens. Just wanted to say that from the get-go, as we know that's been on the community's mind. Next slide. So as I said before, our applicant team, so the land use actions that we're requesting is a rezoning or a zoning map amendment from C82, R6, C13 to C44D. So the site is in a split zoning district. The southern portion of the site, which is along Empire Boulevard, is currently zoned C82. That's a more heavy commercial type of commercial district. Usually you see, you know, auto type uses and, you know, gas stations in C82 type districts. So that's all along Empire Boulevard. You're seeing that from west from Washington Avenue all the way actually to right here to Rogers Avenue. That's where the C82 district ends, which makes sense because you're already seeing a residential building right across the street. So you're seeing that C82 mapped along both the north and south sides of Empire Boulevard. And then the northern portion of the parcel is zoned R6 with a C13 commercial overlay. So that's a residential district which allows local retail uses on the ground floor. So that's the current zoning. It's been zoned that way since the beginning of the zoning resolution in 1961. So the site has never been rezoned before. And we are proposing to rezone the entire site to C44D, which is a more mixed-use kind of commercial district, which has an R8A residential equivalent, and we'll go into the ramifications of that shortly. This will also amendment to map an MIH area over the site, where it's all rezoning applications that would increase the density, or also come with an MIH text amendment to require affordable housing over as part of the site. And these land use actions are meant to facilitate what will be a 13-story mixed-use building containing approximately 273,000 zoning square feet. We're proposing 261 total dwelling units, 183 of which will be market rate and 78 affordable as of the current iteration, and then 98,000 gross square feet of commercial uses that would comprise the cellar, the first and second floors. So this is a pretty heavy on the commercial component to this project as opposed to other projects that have had come before your board recently. And that's because, as I mentioned before, Michael Burfield is part of Bridges Development Group, and they are retail developers, and that's primarily what they do, and that's why that we're really trying to bring in some real anchor retail to the site that can really reactivate the site. As we'll see, it hasn't been active for 20 plus years now. So next slide, please. So just again, project location. So as I said, we're on Empire Boulevard between McKeever, right to our west, Bedford Avenue is to the east, and Sullivan Place is to the north. Community District 9, Crown Heights South, right on the border of Crown Heights and Prospect Lethbrook Gardens. Chris, this is right at the edge of Crystal Hudson's district. I believe her district ends at Empire Boulevard, and to the south is Rita Joseph. So we're right in there with Crystal Hudson's district. Next slide. So again, just some brief project benefits. As you'll see images, as you may have already seen, this site is heavily underutilized. It's been vacant now for over 20 years. What we're proposing would transform this underutilized vacant site. It would revitalize the streetscape here with active retail uses along Empire Boulevard, enhance the pedestrian experience, right? Bringing people, bringing eyes to the street trees, lights, right? Really improving this site, which really looks like a blight right now in the community. It will create much needed affordable housing, reverse urban decay, stimulate the local economy with new jobs, right, both in the construction and operation of the building and working in the retail component. And of course, any vacant site has safety and cleanliness issues, and activating the site with a new use would improve the safety and cleanliness conditions in front of the site. So here's just, again, overview. This is an aerial view. So the site here is outlined in blue, right along Empire Boulevard. Empire Boulevard is a 100-foot wide boulevard. Again, it's been historically zoned C82, which enables these commercial uses. It's a local truck route. Here you're seeing to our immediate north is the Ebbets Field houses. So imagine is an iconic housing development in this neighborhood. It's the former site of Ebbets Field. So this building here is 224 feet tall. So what we're proposing at 145 feet is half the size of Ebbets Field houses to our immediate north. Other noteworthy uses in the surrounding area. So here to our northwest, we have Jackie Robinson Playground. This is the Jackie Robinson School, also known as PS 375K. Here, 2 blocks to our west, you have Prospect Park and the Botanical Gardens over here as well. Next slide. So here is just as I mentioned, everyone here is familiar. We're we're in a transit-rich area here. So here's our site in red, and we're closest subway station is the Prospect Park station right here, which is approximately 0.3 miles to the west here with the EQ and S lines. A little further east, or approximately 0.7 miles, is approximately 10-minute walk is the 25 line. This is the Sterling Street station. And of course, you have all of these buses that run along Franklin Avenue, Bedford, on Empire Boulevard itself. You have the B43. So this is a really transit-rich area with easy access to the site. Next slide. So again, just briefly going through the zoning. So as I mentioned, it's currently zoned C82 on the southern portion of the site and the R6 C13 on the northern portion of the site. As I noted, the C44D district that we're proposing has an RAA residential equivalent. So you're already seeing RAA zoning mapped to the immediate west here, just on the north side of Sullivan Place and Washington Avenues. You have RAX zoning 2 blocks north. So what we're proposing, we really find mirrors existing zoning districts that you're finding within this immediate surrounding area, or we're not proposing an RAA equivalent with among R4 and R3 districts. This is already zoning that already you're seeing similar type of zoning districts within this area. Next slide, please. So again, just looking at this is the tax map. Everyone is aware, right? So the site is, I should mention before, the site is 38,118 square feet. There's approximately 21,400 in the Empire Boulevard, the CA2 portion, and approximately 16,600 in the northern portion in the R6 C13. Next slide. This is the land use map, just giving you a sense of the current fabric of this neighborhood. As everyone knows, this is a mixed-use area, as you're seeing reflected in these colors here. Right, the red is the commercial uses. You're right across the street, you have a Western Beef. Yellow is the residential uses. Blue is the community facility uses. That's the school that you're seeing here. And of course, Prospect Park in Brooklyn and Brooklyn Botanic Gardens to the west. Next slide. And of course, and this is our zoning change map going from our 6C13 CA2 to C44D. Next slide, please. Just for those who aren't familiar with the site, it's just west of us. This is what the site looks like today. It's a 1-story vacant building. It was formerly an auto repair shop. My understanding was that the laundromat that you're seeing on the eastern portion of the site, you go to the next slide, the laundromat that's here was formerly further west within the building, but then it moved over here. So the laundromat is the only active use in the building. So that's the only use here, and that's included as part of our development site. And then you're just looking east, as I mentioned before, regarding the sidewalk condition. I'll note that Michael Burfield and his team purchased the site in 2021, so they've only owned it for 3 years now. Since they've owned the site, they've been doing the best they can to upkeep the site. They don't want it to be a blight on the community, but there's only so much they can do in such a short period of time. This is looking at McKeever Place. This is the western portion of the site. This is a 50-foot wide street that has 2-way traffic here, and of course you see Ebbets Field houses to the north. Click the next slide. This is the sidewalk along McKeever Place. Again, just giving you a sense of what the site looks like now and what we're really trying to do here. This is what the site, the McKeever Place frontage looks like. This is the northwest portion of the lot at the corner of McKeever and Sullivan Place. So as you see on is taking you around the development site. This is the sidewalk along Sullivan Place. This is a 70-foot wide street that has one-way traffic moving west. And this is the back of the block with a building. And then this is the back of a laundromat, which currently has about 4 parking spaces in this garage here. And then just some surrounding uses. So this is PS 375K to our immediate northwest. Right, this is on the corner of McKeever and Sullivan. No, sorry.
Press the escape button. On the keyboard, press escape.
Escape?
There's X at the top.
Maybe X out.
Just click that.
Okay. And then this is across the street, right directly across the street from us on Empire Boulevard, is this Western Beef supermarket. So that orients hopefully everyone to the site and what the current condition is. I just want to briefly discuss what the as of right can do here, right? Because as I said, the site has multiple zoning districts which permit all the uses that we're proposing are already permitted on the site. It's just the site now is because of the split zoning districts, you can't accommodate every use on the entirety of the site. Like for example, in the R6 C13 portion, you could have a residential building as of right. We've analyzed it. It could have come out to approximately a 9-story, 100-foot building. An R6 district is what's referred to as a height factor district, which is governed by a sky exposure plane. So you can build a taller building which is commensurate with the amount of open space that you put on the lot, that would produce approximately 40 market rate dwelling units. You could put ground floor on the retail uses as well as in the cellar. In the R6 C13 portion, because of the commercial overlay, you can have those retail uses. And then in the CA2 portion, which is in the southern portion of the lot on Empire, you could have up to 2.0 FAR of big box retail uses, of other types of commercial uses. So that would come out to approximately 42,880 square feet, and both of those would have parking requirements as well. I know, as Suki was talking about before, everyone is also thinking about City of Yes. I wanted to just make some notes about how City of Yes, if approved, how would it affect both our as of right and our proposed condition. So as of right, the R6 C13 district, if no affordable housing is built, which the developer is not required to do as of right, would not change anything under City of Yes. If affordable housing was provided, then under City of Yes, they would allow a bump in FAR would go up to a 3.9 FAR and up to 95 feet. That's if affordable housing is provided under the current iteration of City of Yes. Okay, I'll try to keep moving. So again, now here's the proposed development, 13 stories, 145 feet. So we're showing here approximately 273,000 total square feet of floor area, commercial retail on the first and second floors, as well as the cellar and the residential uses above. We've designed the building in a way to make it less imposing, varying street walls and setbacks to make it more interesting and not this monolithic building. We really tried to keep the streets in mind and the surrounding landscape. The residential will be along McKeever. We're going to be providing parking spaces to be accessed along Sullivan Place, 190 spaces, and that would even if City of Yes is approved, which as we know is not requiring parking for new residential uses. Michael and his team are intended, we understand that the community wants to see parking spaces, as we've seen in your recommendation report for City of Yes, that parking is important, so we would be providing the parking even if City of Yes is approved. And then the 3 loading berths would also be accessed on Sullivan Place to accommodate the commercial uses that we're proposing. Next slide. Okay, sure. So again, just right now, I want to say we are showing an MIH option 2, but we are currently negotiating with Councilmember Hudson's office and HPD. We're trying to achieve 50% affordability here at lower AMI levels. So that's still in the works, but we had to have something for our application, so we're showing the MIH option 2. But that is something that we understand is very important in this community, and we are working with HPD and Councilmember Hudson's office as we speak to try to lower the AMI levels and provide 50% of the dwelling units to be affordable. again, just showing you the massing, we'll go through this. This is an important slide, just giving you a sense that we are showing a building 145 feet, but just given the surrounding context, you see all these buildings that are taller or within context of us. Like I mentioned, Ebbets Field houses, 54 Crown Street is going up, that's 2 blocks to the north at 174 feet, so Nolly Towers already exist. So you're seeing taller buildings in this area, and this building just went up at 1 Sullivan Place, which is 119 feet. So we really feel we are in context with what's in the surrounding uses. Next slide. Again, as I mentioned before, these are all of the rationale for why this is a strong rezoning application. Next slide. We saw Community Board 9, as we mentioned, in their Community Board recommendation report for City of Yes. You noted that there's a need for housing for families, so we're trying to understand what Community Board 9 is looking for. So we are proposing 38% of the dwelling units as 2 and 3 bedrooms to accommodate families. Need for parking, as we mentioned, we'll be providing the parking. And we also noted in the Community Board 9's district needs statement for 2025. It noted that there's a need for access to healthy food. So right now we're negotiating and looking like we're going to be having a national full-service grocery store as our anchor retail tenant on the first floor of the building that would be providing healthy food. So we really are trying to see what Community Board 9 is interested in and looking at, and trying to provide that other site. We can stop here, and then. For the retailers, so we have multiple, we don't have the supermarket locked in right now. We're negotiating with different supermarket retailers. So on the first floor, we're hoping to have the supermarket as well as local retail uses. Trying to have smaller local retail. Then on the second floor, we're hoping to have a national affordable clothing store on the second floor, and then it's, also that similar type of use in the cellar as well. And that's something that Michael and his team are working on. Obviously, we can't get any signed leases without knowing, whether the rezoning is going to be approved. But that's what we're looking to put in.
You realize there's like 7 grocery stores coming in that area. There's Western Beach, there's there's 3 more, maybe 4 more coming with those new developments.
Yeah.
So maybe there's going to be like 8. There's like 7 or 8 grocery stores in like a short block area. So that may be overdoing it.
Okay.
So let's just ask about the cost.
Okay,
Yeah.
guys, I have
Yeah, something you can consider. Our understanding is that if there's more supermarkets, it could drive down prices and more competition, and there's always a help to have more supermarkets. Yeah.
Okay, we're finished with the presentation.
Yeah.
Can we take committee questions first? Okay, can we take committee questions? Yako, do you have a question?
I'm gonna get to those.
Okay. Esteban?
Good.
Okay. So you said you've been in negotiations with the council member. How long have you been in negotiations with the council member? And also, I did read in an article that you had spoken with community groups about this. So could you tell me which one those are?
So we've been with the past few weeks now. We've been speaking with the council member's office as this project was nearing certification. On the community groups, I'm not familiar with that article, but we would love to get community board input on any community groups that you think we should be working with in terms of the affordable housing component, as well as we want to be hiring locally in terms of the construction. So if there are any organizations or community groups you would recommend and work with, we would love to hear that.
Also, we have been trying to get you to do a presentation for several months now, I think. So,
Well,
at least a month. Good. We're glad you're here, but we would really like to have more engagement at whatever level that could be. But it shouldn't have been that hard to get this. So, just a note.
Any other questions from the committee?
Do you have the financials for the piece?
So, again, right now, what we're showing is 78 affordable units. But again, that's something that we're still negotiating. if that's how it landed today, it would be approximately 26 of those would be studios broken up between 60, 80, and 100% AMI. Again, this is all, we're hoping to provide lower levels of affordability. But as of today, this is what we've been showing in our application materials. The one-bedroom units would be 22 affordable one-bedroom units, also broken at 7 at 60% AMI, 8 at 80%, and 7 at 100%, 26 two-bedroom affordable units, and then 4 three-bedroom affordable units, all within that 60, 80, and 100% AMI ranges. That's what we have as of today. We're hoping within the next few weeks, months, to be reaching more finality in our negotiations with HPD and Councilmember Hudson's office to lower those AMI levels.
Thank you guys for coming. Quick question regarding right development. So if this were not, this zone were not approved, then you would move forward with 40 units of market rate?
So it's a good question, because this is something we could do, we're not 100% sure yet. We also, because the applicant is a retail developer, there is also a likelihood that we would just do 2-story commercial building and just do like a more heavily retail option, because again, that's really is what Bridges Development Group's bread and butter is. But we want you to be aware that in the R6 you could build residential, and of course residential is always an option as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, of course.
Joshua?
Just want to follow up on the last question. So, could you just tell us how many unit of the affordable units, I think you said 78, will be at that 60 AMI level? Because I think we know that 80 and 100 is out of reach for most people in this community.
So again, right now, we're showing 9 studios at 60%, 7 one-bedrooms at 60%, 9 two-bedrooms, and 1 three-bedroom. So that's a total of 16%, 26 of the units as of right now are at 60% AMI. But again, I reiterate numerous times, and it continues to reiterate that we are trying to lower those AMI levels.
Okay, so right now,
Yeah.
26 out of 78.
Correct. Would be at the 60% AMI bracket. Correct.
So what is the lowest
Okay,
you can
anyone
go?
else? Yako?
So yeah, that's something we have to figure out in terms of the financials and the term sheets. Yes.
78 is, the 78 affordable is at 30% or the 50% you're aiming for?
So right now, the 70 that we're showing is 30% of the residential floor area, which is consistent with MIH option 2, right? Because we had to choose one of the MIH option levels, so that would be 30%, and we're trying to get that number up to 50%.
And how many apartments?
So approximately, so we're showing 260 units total, so 50% of that. Yeah, thank you for the math. So, right,
So isn't this, just if somebody else, isn't this unique that in this district, 50% affordable? Is that something, have we ever had, Suki, have we ever had this before? Besides the Armory, which was government, have we ever had 50% affordable before?
I mean, I'm not aware of all of the developments. Yes, actually, most of Vital Brooklyn developments are on.
Non-government.
yeah, from my knowledge, I mean, just seeing from the recent applications, I haven't seen 50% from private applicants. I think what also makes this unique and what makes
Must have seen parking.
Yeah, and what makes the 50% perhaps feasible here is because we have such a robust commercial program as well. So that can help, you know, with the numbers for the project and generating revenue for the project, so which could enable us to reach that 50%.
So you're saying
You guys
50%
please raise your
AMI?
hand. I think it's okay.
50% AMI for?
So, no, sorry, so it's 50% of the total dwelling units.
So
Yeah.
50% of the total dwelling units will be 60% AMI, not 20, 30, 40?
So no, we can't commit yet to what the AMI levels would be for the affordable units, right? So we're we're aiming to achieve 50% of the total dwelling units for the building to be affordable. What those AMI levels would look like is still to be determined, right? So it's 50% of the total dwelling units.
So we're looking for some 20, 30% AMI. 20 to 30% AMI units. These are the figures.
Okay. I'll definitely take note of that. Thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody else? Any other committee, Hector, did you have a question
I don't
first?
know.
Okay. Any other committee questions before we go to the public?
I guess on the goal, right, of getting to 50% affordability, because that's a goal right now.
Yeah.
If you could just tell us more about what would be needed to get more units at deeper affordability levels, and maybe more about what the conversations with the council member are about to that end.
Yeah. So it's a good question. So Michael, I haven't been in the room yet with the council member. That's more we have a government relations team that we're working on with the council member's office. But again, I guess it depends on, what HPD financing we're able to get, what kind of subsidies in terms of tax breaks, right? So obviously the deeper levels of affordable housing that we provide, right, that cuts into the revenue of the building. So we need to know what HPD is going to be providing to kind of offset any affordable housing that we would be providing, and what sort of tax incentives that we can get from HPD, and any other programs that Crystal Hudson can help negotiate with us. So that's my understanding of what those discussions are about, and more in terms of the financing component of the application. But that's kind of where those negotiations are at now. Thank you for your question.
I have one final question before we go to the public questions. If we could go back to the part, okay, I see it here. So, we have 63,000 square feet of retail. And that's one floor on the ground floor and one floor subgrade.
So yeah, so just to be clear, so in the way the zoning works, so they only count as floor area what's above grade. So that's why we broke it down like this. So the first two floors is the zoning floor area. That's the 63,235 square feet. And then additionally, we have another approximately 31,000 square feet in the cellar. So that 31,000 square feet is considered part of the gross square footage, because officially under zoning, so it doesn't count towards your FAR, but it still actually exists in the building, right? So that's why for clarity, that's why we broke it down that way. So, but in reality, it's going to be commercial in the cellar, first floor, and second floor.
And just with respect to your as of right, which you put in the application, was going to be all commercial, commercial on the CH2 side and commercial on the C1 overlay side. Could you just speak to, we spoke to it a little bit, but could you just speak to why that would be the as of right choice, and if the rezoning application was denied, are you happy with that?
So yeah, that's our choice. Again, because of Bridges Development Group, that's their business primarily. That's their bread and butter. They've done retail projects all over the city. So that's what we thought was, for our paperwork, was probably the most reasonable most realistic of the as of right conditions. But we did want you to just be aware of what could be done in the R6, especially because it's a residential district. Yes.
So it's fair to say then that the all commercial is a profitable option for you, if there's no upside whatsoever.
I would say that the issue with the as of right condition is that you can't do what we're referring to as more destination or big box retail in the C13 portion of the district. So that's why we're asking for the C44D across the entire project site, right? Because in the C13 portion of the site, you're limited to only 10,000 square feet of local retail uses. The zoning doesn't allow above 10,000 square feet in for most types of, you know, bigger box kind of clothing stores. So if we would do something, but it's not really the primary retail that we're looking to bring here, which is a real, you know, destination type retail and anchor tenants that we need the entire site zoning to accommodate those types of uses.
Okay, so you're looking for a minimum of the 63,000 square feet of commercial for the retail portion of the project?
Correct. Which we cannot do as of right.
You keep referring to destination retail, I'm just trying to get an understanding. Just name something. I think that may be.
Yeah, so-
What is your vision? What would that look like? What kind of store you are?
So yeah, honestly, nothing that we're, sorry.
We know
Yeah,
it's not in
but-
the pipeline, I'm just trying to.
Exactly, so we're looking,
Saks,
no, that's definitely not. We're looking at something maybe like a Burlington Coat Factory, maybe a Target, a supermarket, maybe a Trader Joe's, like some retail uses that people appreciate. And again, a site like this, which is really doing nothing right now, we really think could be a boon to the local economy and to really activate the site. I imagine people don't want a site like this in the neighborhood, especially.
It's been a warehouse for years.
Yeah, especially along, you know, what could be an active commercial street here, right near Subway and Prospect Park. So that's kind of what we had in mind. But yeah, that's a good question. Yeah.
Because that's been our vision, is to hopefully revitalize and bring commercial to that zone.
Yes.
Commercial zone, we have so much residential,
Yeah.
we're dying to get some commercial in that area.
Great. So yeah, and that's exactly what Bridges Development does. Right. Again, you can look at their website of other retail projects they've done throughout New York City. Yeah.
Max?
Just one more question here. On the land use framework for District 35, there's a section here about contributing funds to local park. And you mentioned, I'm sure you want to do that, because people would know about that, please.
So yeah, so that's something we didn't get to in the presentation, but just so everyone has a little background to the question. So Crystal Hudson, her office, they issued a development framework back in the fall of 2023 for all of District 35, and they took, you know, they gathered community feedback. So one of the things that she's looking for is providing amenities that address neighborhood disparities through the design and programming of open space, housing units, and non-residential units. So she's looking for these projects for the developers who want rezonings to help, you know, and just improve the neighborhoods in general. So that would most likely the money that would be allocated to local parks would be for Prospect Park. That's the park that's closest to the development site. Or Jackie Robinson Playground as well, but in terms of park, you know, you can make a decision between park and playground. But yes, so either Jackie Robinson Playground, again, whatever, that's something we can work with your board or with the council member's office on what you think the resources, what's needed most in terms of resources for the local parks and playgrounds.
Thank you. I think we'll go to questions from the signed up speakers. If you want to speak and you're not signed up here, can I put your name down?
I think I'm signed up.
Okay, I don't see Tom Thomas here, but I'll put
It
you
may be on the
down.
wrong sheet, because I'm still listed on the committee.
Oh, okay. So I'm gonna put you down here, we'll get to you, don't worry. Vishnu Reddy. From Sunnyside, Queens.
Hi, good evening. My name is Vishnu Reddy, and I'm here not only to speak in strong support of the project on Empire Boulevard, but to encourage the board to look beyond this project and consider further improvements to the corridor. I've been coming every week here for healthcare appointments just across the street from the site of the proposed development. I also spend a lot of time in the neighborhood when I come to visit the park, visit friends, or patronize the many great small businesses here. Despite coming here quite often, I'm struck every time by just how neglected Empire Boulevard feels. When I'm walking here from the subway or riding a bike, I feel unsafe because traffic safety is not speeding at a time when our city is backsliding in road safety. A corridor this close to several bus and subway services and the city's best park should not be filled with underutilized surface parking, drive-through fast food restaurants, or neglected one-story commercial buildings like there is on the site we're talking about here. By reconsidering how we use the sites along the corridor, we can start to turn the page. I want to remind folks that this city is facing a historic housing shortage and we can't be waffling around on this. This rezoning is a great opportunity to do something, and I can't think of a more perfect place to build more homes. There is excellent transit service and amazing access to green space here. The site has long been neglected. To me, this site and the sites around it on Empire Boulevard are some of the best places in Brooklyn to build housing. So please support this rezoning and please look into what more can be done to reimagine this corridor, to build homes and make the area more safe and livable. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reddy. Lisa, Etienne, and everybody has 2 minutes. We've got quite a few people.
I must have signed it.
Oh, okay.
Don't
You're not
just
allowed
direct
to
me.
speak?
No,
Okay.
that's
Yes.
Yeah, just want to make sure that when people are speaking, that they identify the organizations that they're with. Are you with Open New York?
I am speaking on a personal capacity.
Okay, okay, sure.
Okay. Israel, did you also sign? You accidentally signed the wrong sheet. Okay, Dr. Marcus?
Yeah. Yes, once again. Building on this site along Empire Corridor, there's a lot of disparities that went on along this corridor. I remember when we had the skating rink, that was a very much utilized facility for our youth in our community. And it was abruptly and discriminatory taken away from our community. And ever since, I've had a number of investors who wanted to, over the years, who wanted to build facilities to accommodate our youths. The facility down there that you guys are trying to build on, it was denied access to our investors. This is why it's been dormant, and it was done purposely. They refused to sell the property to our investors. They refused to even rent the properties to our investors. Okay? And I can name the investors that contacted me. And being that I'm the community director for Brooklyn, everyone comes to me. I come to the community board many times. I've spoken up against a lot of things that these developers are coming in to try to do to our community. And unfortunately, it's been ignored. The previous ULURP committee that was there before, they would listen to us and then turn around and approve things that the members of the community disapprove of. And this nonsense has to stop. It must stop, and we must band together, right? Not to wait until they come up with a plan, but we have to start planning as a community to literally look at the interests of the community at large and decide what we want, and not for other people to come from the outside to decide what we want. Those buildings, they were deliberately left unattended and abandoned for a purpose, and this is the purpose. They had a 50-year plan in our community, and it's time for us to, stop them in their tracks. And the brother that spoke real quick, give me 15 seconds. He's not from our community, and he's with them, and he's speaking for them. And I think that's a disservice, and we don't need him in our community to speak for us or speak for anyone. Stay in Queens.
Thank you so much.
We've got enough colonialists. We don't need one more.
Okay, Ms. Aaron,
my entire life, and this is actually a question for the environmental consultant, AKRF. Okay, so I just wanted to know the traffic implications with this going into Flatbush. You know, we have a pretty good flow right now, but I feel like with the construction and with the proposed amount of traffic, what are the implications as far as our traffic is concerned? And then the second question is just the environmental impact on building high, as far as like sunlight and airflow as well. I know Evansville is there, but we don't necessarily need another building that high. So I just wanted to get some clarification if you factor that in, how that would affect the community, and just you know, those are my questions.
Thank you for your questions on that. Just to speak with it, we didn't get a chance to go on the slide, but it is in your packets here. We did do an environmental review of many of the questions that you might have concerns with, and we did follow what is traditionally called the city's environmental quality review process. But having said that, let me address your question one at a time. One is your concern about traffic in terms of operations once the development is built, and then you're also concerned about construction, traffic, and how that might be addressed. So in terms of the traffic and the transportation with this project, we did go through the process and review with city planning and the Department of Transportation, following the guidelines that the city prescribes to us. For a project of this size, there isn't, because it's mostly residential, and most of them over the years, the patterns have established themselves as being much more transit oriented. There are considerations of how do you get to the site, cars, walking, bus, subway. So all of that has been accounted for, and as part of this development, given its proximity and its site location along large, wide streets, the traffic, it indicates that we actually screen out on a lot of that because you're able to use all three sides of the site to disperse your trips. So we don't show any adverse impacts on the traffic itself with the operations, because like a lot of these trips can be achieved by transit, walking, bus, and so on, and by the residents of the site itself. As it relates to the construction, we have looked at what the construction effects are. We had in our document assumed, we believe that we could get this built in 24 months. The quicker you can do it, the quicker you're in and out, and the less disruption to the community. For purposes of the analysis, the city wanted us to use 32 months because they believe that that's more reasonable in terms of some of the delays. What we have looked at is how do vehicles come and go, concrete trucks and deliveries and all of that, and we looked at it also in terms of what they do with noise and air quality, right? All of the construction with their generators and so on. And again, a lot of this will come out. We can only make a guess as to how construction practices work, but based upon that, we have actually, the applicant actually has committed to doing best practices. And what does that mean? It means, for example, making sure that when the cement trucks come, they are timed. They just don't show up and drive apart. They are timed to make sure that the delivery of concrete is done at a pace in which it is not going off the street or minimize the amount of traffic that happens there. Other things that have happened is that we are doing what they call project commitments related to the environment. Those are PCREs. Those are commitments that the applicants take, and it is codified in the restrictive declaration, which goes with the deed. That means that when you build this project, you have to coordinate with Department of Transportation. You have to, what they call OCMC, they take care of the construction, so that if you have lane closures or if you have sidewalk closures, that you make sure you time it so that if somebody else is on the block, you don't adversely contract the street, that you could still get through. Same thing with the safety on sidewalks and then pedestrians, making sure that somebody's there, whether it's a flagger or somebody else, to make sure that there's safety. So there are all different components of that. So based on that, in review with the agencies, the project will be taking steps to minimize any of those effects on the local neighborhood, whether it's traffic, air quality, and noise. So that was the traffic piece. The other piece that we looked at is also shadows. I'm sorry? Yeah, if you could wrap up. Okay, shadows, we've looked at it, and it is actually available as part of the documents that I think has been shared with the community board. And we did look at the shadows in the area, including the Jackie Robinson Playground, as well as the Brooklyn Botanic Gardens. And given the height of this project, we don't have any shadows cast on either one of those resources. Actually, 6 of those resources we looked at. Rabbi Goldstein?
Two quick ones. Number one, adjacent to your project is a big and large Jewish community. How many of these units will be designated internally that will be kosher, i.e. 2 sinks and a kitchen? How many apartments?
It's a good question. We haven't really gotten to that level of detail yet on the
The
design.
reason I ask, we got a project at 975, same again. And now we have an issue, and that's up the street from my house. New development, totally ignoring the Jewish community, that's your neighbor. I personally was the chairman of the board for 34 years, and I will not let this slide. I'm telling you straight up front. Okay? So you should know that that is an issue. Now, we have double sinks, and made, so the kitchens could be kosher. Okay? That's an important issue for me personally. All right? So take that into consideration, go back to the developers and tell them it was raised, and they've got to deal with that. The question becomes, how many units are you going to set aside that will have that? Everybody could go with those units, but at least there's a shot for the people in the community to get apartments that work for them. And I very much like to hear as you guys go forward with this thing.
Thank you, Rabbi Goldstein.
I agree with Trevor Goldstein. I just want to point out to Goldstein that a sink, a double sink, is an easy fix. A larger unit is impossible. So we got the 2 3-bedrooms, which is great. Now we got to work on the sinks, right?
I believe that that's incorrect. I spoke to my brother-in-law today, and he told me that they have double side-by-side sinks, smaller ones for small.
Right, so I'm telling you, it's an easy fix. I think you get it done. Most of these buildings don't have 2 3-bedroom apartments. They have 1 bedroom.
This is good for,
So
it's good for 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, trust me. And by the way, just so you know, I look at units all over the city. As my position as Assistant Commissioner of Housing for State Division of Housing, I have 5 boroughs. I have more than 1 million units that we're responsible for, and I have a good idea how this can work. That as long as we have the will. That's the important thing, the will.
Thank you, Rabbi Goldstein. Tom Thomas? No, let's hear it.
So there are about 6,000 questions that haven't been answered, not in particular your responsibility.
Somebody close the door,
That's it. This project will have enormous influence on social and physical infrastructure. And so will Washington Avenue, and so will Nostrand, and so will all the other projects that are increasing density in this neighborhood. We need to worry about, are the school rooms overcrowded? Is the water supply sufficient? Are the subway stations overused? There needs to be a balance between supply and demand. Maybe we need to have the people that you spoke to about traffic generation and such, right?
come, we should demand it. You should demand it as a committee. It hasn't been done in New York City since 1961, and it will not be done. Not in my professional lifetime, it hasn't been. So, those effects happen sporadically for you and other people, and nobody ever adds them up. So, we are faced with the generation of demand for services, police, fire, whatever, and nobody is keeping track. And it keeps, and the density is not going down, it's going up. So, it's okay, I used to cut my students off as well. So, I suggest that maybe city planning needs to come to us. I'm not implying that they know how to answer the question, but we're responsible for asking it.
Thank you. Beverly?
Good afternoon. My name is Beverly and I live in Evansville apartment, my house's apartment. And as you're doing construction, I have a question. I like how you went into detail about planning how everything is going to go. But frequently the fire department comes there. People are stuck in the elevator and a fire sometimes. As construction is going on, like we have 2 on the same street, we have at least 4 going on before you start. Within walking distance, 1 block from each other. I know you're well intentioned, but how is that going to affect our quality of life? Because what we're looking at right now sucks. Sidewalks being closed off, buses being relocated, and things like that. How are you going to affect that? Secondly, we need you to be certified. There are a lot of opening questions here that you don't have answers for. But I was told you're going to be certified in less than 30 days.
Tomorrow.
Is that tomorrow? But you're being asked a lot of concrete questions that you have no answers for. How does that happen?
So just to be clear, the project was certified last Monday, on November 4th.
I know you come in here.
We were not told that. We were told by city planning that it was certifying tomorrow.
So you could have misunderstood that officially the community board review period
No,
starts
we were told
9
it was
days.
certifying on November 13th.
But you still
Okay.
don't have concrete answers to some of these questions that was asked in this room. And when I say concrete answers, I mean numbers. You can compare the height to Evansville all you want. Evansville was built in 1962.
Yes.
You can't compare the two. Now you're dropping on the ground in 2024. And we're asking you questions that's gonna affect our quality of life when 2 construction sites are just down the block from you that you don't have answers for. The AMI, how many? Who's gonna be able to live there? That matters to a lot of people in this community. You could be another market rate, and I'm gonna be honest, your project, the way it's going right now, I'm okay with it being totally retail. I'm okay with that. I'm done, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Beverly. Anybody else want to speak?
Actually, Ray's here. I heard you. I'm not here to insult anyone. I'm to say that, we have a lot that has taken place besides this building, besides the one on Montgomery.
2 on Montgomery.
That's correct. 2 on Montgomery, Franklin, 960. That hasn't even been built yet, okay? We have another one that's on Franklin on like a dead-end street.
Right.
Okay? So, Carol, thank you. So here we have all these apartment buildings that are condominiums.
No services.
Right. I work for the city of New York. The employees don't even make that kind of salary. We can't even afford it. Okay? You're pricing us out. Not just you, all the others as well. We have over 1,000 apartments. It does not fit in our frame of living. It just does not. Now, I went to Empire Skating Rink, so we enjoyed the Empire Skating Ring, the bowling alley, you know, I don't mind having more food because of the density, and you're right, the density. It's so dense here. What are we doing? So the height it's not acceptable, it really isn't. I don't know about anyone else. I agree with the retail, I love the retail, okay? Right.
Original property being built or built in?
Correct. I'm just saying the density is just too much, it's just nothing good being offered here. Thank you.
I just have one final question for you. Have you seen CB9's zoning principles, which we passed before the end of last June?
Yes,
You have.
I've seen that, yes.
Okay,
It's on your
so
website.
our zoning guidelines indicate that, you know, we should be looking at shadows and we should be looking at the context of the surrounding buildings, but that we also think buildings that are taller than 9 stories are too tall for this district, you know, in which 90% of buildings are less than 5 stories tall. And so, you know, could you speak to why you chose to do a 13-story building in spite of that? Because, and let me just add that the context of the taller buildings that you're talking about that are going up, this board did not vote for that. We disapproved the Franklin Avenue rezoning from 2017. We disapproved the upzoning of 962, 972 Franklin Avenue, and, you know, some of the others like Long Brigade, obviously.
So first, as we said before, we needed a district that can accommodate the robust commercial program. So a lot of commercial use, a lot of districts that you're seeing in New York City only allow up to 2.0 FAR of commercial. So we needed more FAR than that
So
for the
how much
commercial.
commercial FAR are you using? You said 60,000 square feet on a 38,000 square foot site?
So it's 63,000 square feet, but yes.
So that's less than a 2.0.
But we also needed for the cellar as well, and those uses that we're putting in the cellar would not be permitted in a typical district that allows just 2.0 commercial FAR.
Okay, but you just told me that cellar doesn't count against zoning square feet.
But it does count for the use in the building, right? So we're putting a commercial retail use in the cellar that would not be permitted in a typical C1 district, right? Like for example, that Burlington Coat Factory, that's a use group 10, so it doesn't count for square footage, but you still have to have a use that's permitted in that zoning district, right? So that's why we needed that for the entirety of the site. So as I said before, you could put a Burlington Coat Factory in the CA2 portion now, but you couldn't do that in the C13 portion, right? So we needed a zoning district that can allow the program and uses for the entirety of the site, which didn't allow that. So that already brought us up to a more mixed use kind of.
Okay, so I'm just trying to specifically understand because there is a lot of interest in the retail. The C1, the C8 portion of the site is about 20,000 square feet.
It's 16,000 square feet.
So it's the other way around.
Excuse me, yes, excuse me. The CH portion is 21,000 square
C8,
feet.
you could actually get 42,000 square feet. Would that be enough for the destination retail that you want?
So the building doesn't work if it's not a uniform building. We need that full lot area to be that anchor retail. We need to use a full lot. And Michael, he's retail.
But I want to speak a little bit to the retail. Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Burfield. I'm with the development group. So just speaking specifically for the retail, there's a couple things about this site that are unique. And so when you ask, is the 42,000 square feet enough? In square footage it is, but for footprint it's not.
Okay.
So everyone's been in large retailers. Right. It's very rare that you have them sort of sliced up small spaces on multiple floors. Most of the time it's a pretty big footprint on one floor. So if you've been to, Atlanta Terminal, any of those buildings where you have a lot of these big retailers, even though they're multiple floors, the retailers themselves are on one floor. So it's a challenge to find sites that are large enough to support those types of retailers. This is one of those sites. It's a very unique site. You asked earlier about sort of the height and why, this one is going 13 stories when the community board sort of recommends 9 stories. I'm not an expert on every single construction project going on in this community. I know about a lot of them, but most of them I think are not on a boulevard like Empire Boulevard. So Empire Boulevard also is a very unique avenue, not just in the community, in all of Brooklyn. There's not a lot of thoroughfares like Empire Boulevard, Kings Highway, Atlantic Avenue and parts of it, but this is a unique boulevard that can really change an area if you do the right type of project. And so even though 13 stories might be a little higher than the community board wants, for us, we were very cognizant, and our architect is here, about finding something that seemed like it fit not only for the community, but also for this particular site. A building too small on this site, this is sort of a site that can be almost a landmark in the community. It's so close to the Gateway and the Prospect Park, it's so close to all of the transit. This could almost be a landmark sort of beacon in this area, and so that requires a little more scale. So even though 13 stories might be a little more than we want, we felt it was appropriate for the site, and again, in terms of what you see around it, it doesn't look out of proportion.
And did you consider SC44A, since you want more retail?
When we come up with the exact zone that we want, it's a discussion with city planning. So they have a big role in what we want. We don't necessarily just say, hey, we want this, and they say, great. They have it back and forth with us on what they think is appropriate. And so for them, and I know they're not here, and I don't want to put words in city planning's mouth, but they were excited about the possibility of doing the type of project we're proposing because of what Empire Boulevard is.
Because we're not excited about
I get it.
We are excited
Yeah.
about the retail,
No, that's great.
and, this is why we would have liked to have a discussion with you guys earlier, so that we could have this dialogue with you, that we're not opposed to the development, but we have ideas about how we'd like to see
We
it.
would love to get them. We'd love to get them. And what I'll also say, just in terms of some of the questions that came up earlier that you had raised and some other people raised, even though it may seem that it's kind of sudden that it got certified, in reality, there's a lot of technical reporting and research that needs to happen. You all are probably familiar with what an EAS looks like. It's like a mini phone book. So AKRF, Linda disappeared on me. She's over there. AKRF has an EAS that's public that you all can see. That's probably about 500 pages that looks at exactly what you were saying. How do you look at the impacts on infrastructure? How do you look at the impacts on environment? How do you look at the impacts on school? Impacts on fire department? Impacts on police? And when you're doing that study, you're not allowed to look at it in a vacuum. You have to look at it not only in terms of the projects that are already there, but you have to consider projects that are under construction. So you're not allowed to look at it as a one-off. So if you ever are bored and need help sleeping, you should get this EAS, and you can skim through it. And it's divided by chapters. So there's a chapter on shadows. There's a chapter on schools. There's a chapter on fire department. There's a chapter on police. There's a chapter on infrastructure, sewer, sanitary, flooding, all the things that you all are concerned about. All those things are researched, have been researched over the past year to 2 years in the context of this city environmental review. The city forces you to do that.
Susan, I'm gonna ask you something before you go. You said that, stores like Target, you said like stores, destinations, what he called them, stores like Target require a larger footprint.
Correct.
But even though they have multiple floors, you said this space wasn't big enough. Can you expand on that? Because when I walk into the Target, it does have multiple floors. Yes, so that's
Sure, no, absolutely.
Explain to me
In
why
general,
this
there's a
would work.
minimum.
Because you could go up, not go
Our site, if you just look at the part that could have someone like a Target, is about 20,000 square feet. By the time you factor in an escalator, an elevator, loading, all those things that goes into it, it shrinks that footprint, I promise you, you've never been in a Target that's multiple stories, that's only 20,000 square feet a story. They're always bigger than that. So Target's, like for instance, the one at Flatbush Nostrand, that's over 100,000 square feet. It's two different stories, I get it. Each story is about 50 or 60,000 square feet.
What about the one at Church Avenue? Right.
That one is a small one. That is a smaller one, you're right. And they did look at doing some of those, and they don't do them anymore. And if you look at them, one of the reasons they don't do them anymore is exactly that reason. They found that it was too inefficient to try and do what they do in small little footprints on multiple stories. So they're not doing those anymore.
And just also, I know it's on Crystal Hudson's development framework that she wants to see grocery stores, but I agree with the people who are saying there's already a lot and more coming, so just, it's a business decision for you.
I understand. No, I mean, look, grocery stores are an interesting subject because in one hand, everyone loves grocery stores. The more choices you have, the better. And Ellie brought up a good point that grocery stores do face competition, and the more you have, you're absolutely going to see better pricing, better service, because the one that stinks is the one no one's going to go to, and they're going to go out of business. So that competition is good for you. I'll say that right off the bat. And the second thing I'll say is that retailers, the only certainty about retailers is they all go bankrupt, and they all go out of business at one point in time. So you might have 4 grocery stores tomorrow, but you've seen what happens with grocery stores. They merge, they go out of business, and the next thing you know, you don't have a grocery store. So I don't think, I get what you're saying, and we always want 100%, and that's why we have such a robust retail program, because we think there are a lot of services that the community could use, and that's really the development we do. We don't do high-end luxury development on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan. We do commercial development in Brooklyn, in Queens, in the Bronx, and we also do affordable housing in those areas. We have a large mixed-use project just like this one we just built on 125th Street, anchored by a large grocery store, with a lot of affordable housing. It was a lot of negotiations with the city to get to the right levels of AMI and units and all those types of things, and that's the piece that's hard to do until you are certified. So now that we're certified, we can really have those conversations in earnest about, look, we get that everyone wants more affordable. Our goal would be absolutely 50% would be great, and then lower AMIs would be great. It depends a lot on how the city can help us get there. And they don't really take you seriously until you're certified. So now we can have those conversations, because otherwise, it's not their fault. Otherwise, they're having conversations with 1 million developers who will never get anywhere close to actually building something. So they're basically saying, we've got so many people, we're gonna wait until you're at a certain point in the process, and then we'll talk to you. So that's kind of the point in the process we're at. And it'll be heavily dependent on what the city can provide us.
Hector, and this is the last.
My name is on the list, and you're ignoring me all the way.
I'm sorry, what's your name?
Turn the page.
Okay, I didn't realize there was a second page, my apologies. Dorset?
No, Yvette.
Yvette Haynes.
I just wanted to, one other question before, and my mouth is, I don't need a mic. I just needed to know, because the question was asked already about the traffic, what the impact would look like, because you should have some projection, around the project after. Like McKeever Place, there's a 2-way. Will it be a 1-way? Will you take away all those parking spaces for, I mean, I don't park there, but I'm thinking of the community. And since I'm a community person, I've been living here just about since I've been here. But how is that parking around there, or the traffic after it's built? What is going to look like for the community? For people who are parking, who have vehicles already, because we see the impact that they're created already with the bike lanes and putting in the bicycles, as opposed to putting on the sidewalk, they put them in here, so they take away all the parking spots. Now, we know that the community that was here, we have cars. So now, when you create this, when you finish your project, what will that look like? We have a school. People drive to drop off, pick up. What is it gonna look like after?
Let me give a little bit of an answer to that. So first off, no street directions are changing. So McGee is still 1-way going west, it'll stay 1-way going west.
2-way.
2-way, I'm sorry. Not Sullivan's the one on the back of the site. So we're not changing any street directions. And one of the reasons that we're providing the amount of parking that we're providing, regardless of what happens with the city of Yes, is for that exact reason. We're trying to give new cars potentially that are in this neighborhood a place to park. In terms of the impacts of the actual parking and stuff like that, we're not asking for any street parking to be removed as part of the project. DOT has final say on that. So even if we did ask that question, it's going to be up to DOT as to whether or not they would let us do that. The reality is that, again, the study that we do, the traffic study, the best they can do is look at what's happened traditionally. So they can't predict the future, obviously. I can't say specifically it's gonna look like this. But what they do is look at years and years and years and years of studies of other projects and what's the impact been, and they have data on what goes on in this neighborhood right now. And they put those two together and they look at it and they say, is this project gonna cause a problem? And if they think it is gonna cause a problem, I have to mitigate it. I have to pay for street widening. I have to pay for signal timing to change. I have to pay for, you know, whatever it is to help make the traffic go back to a level that's acceptable. So they force you to do that analysis. So when Lynn's group did that,
Just clarify this. This type and scale of this particular program that we have here, when we reviewed it with the city agencies, they did not request any kind of changes to the street network. In fact, they felt that this level of development, given the streets, the three frontages on wide streets, that the development could actually handle the demand. And part of the demand is what is happening in the parking lot, is being able to accommodate your own project's demand. So you're not going out there and taking up other existing parking that's in the area. There's no changes to the parking direction. We can only forecast so much, and we do account for what we call no-build projects. What else is happening in the area, we account for it because we have to reflect as best as we can what the project's going to look like in the area in 2027. That was a guesstimate that we have on when the project would be built. However, as part of this, the project can't succeed if the traffic is all snarled, right? Nobody wants to come and support a place where you can't get to, you can't shop, you can't walk to. So safety, access is something that's very important, not just to the neighborhood, but just to the viability of the project itself. So there's a little self-interest there to make sure that happens. In the event that our forecast may not be as accurate, there is recourse, right? There is complaints. They will work with DOT, they will work with city planning, they will work with DEP if there are specific issues that are tied to this project, right?
Okay, I think we're gonna have to move on, but thank you for your answer, and we hope we can be in touch with you, more. Mr. Harris, your comment?
Yeah, I guess everyone can hear me, right?
Yes.
Sorry, okay, good. All right, so I have also been in the community for a very long time. And the question that I have to ask is directed to you. I'm sorry, sir, I forgot your name.
Elliot.
Elliot, thank you. Ellie?
Yes.
Ellie, I'm sorry, Ellie. So you mentioned in the course of your presentation that you guys are working with local, to get local talent or local labor or
local hiring.
Yeah, we want to be doing local hiring.
Local hiring,
as part of the
yes.
project, yes, both
Yeah.
in the construction and in the operation of the building once it's built.
Yeah, so how are you facilitating that local hiring and what does that look like?
There's a couple things we do. So during the construction, a lot of it's the same process at different times, right? So for construction, we'll do job fairs. So we'll coordinate with local groups and we'll do job fairs. The trades that we're hiring will come and they'll look to see if they can find someone, you know, whoever shows up, if they've got the right backgrounds to work on these jobs. Because they like local people, it's easier for them to show up. It's more likely that they're gonna, you know, be committed to being in the job. So that's the construction part of it. For the operations part of it, the retailers do the same thing. The retailers have local job fairs where they look to hire people to work in the stores basically. So I've done it on almost all of my projects. And so it's a pretty, it really depends a lot on, from the retailer's perspective, they like to work with the community groups to try and ensure they get a good turnout, people get word on it. That's really what makes them successful.
So the community, I'm sorry.
How many people are you expecting to hire for the construction portion?
The construction portion is cyclical, you know, so it's not like there's a set number at every part of the construction, but over the course of the job, there'll probably be upwards of 400 or 500 jobs at least, I would say. Not all at one time.
Union?
Not all at one time, yeah. These would not be union.
Sir, are you done?
Yeah, I think my question's been answered. Yeah.
Any final questions?
Isn't it a mandate that a portion of the construction go to union?
It's only a mandate, I think, when, it's not a mandate for this project, it may be a mandate for different types of public projects.
But as I inspect most of the construction projects around, right? Each and every one that I've visited, they do have union members on those projects, each and every one, even whether it's local or.
I should correct what I said before, so it's not that it's not a union job, but it is, we bid to whoever will bid on the project and give us the best sort of combination of price, schedule, and quality. So if that happens to be a union shop, that's great. If it happens to be a non-union shop, then we go that direction. So I shouldn't say that it's absolutely not, it's just a question of who gives us the best combination of things to build a project.
Are you subject to the prevailing wage requirement?
Which prevailing wage requirement are you talking about?
45W?
If we were to build 45X, we'd be subject to whatever the requirements are, yeah.
You intend to do that?
We do intend to do that. I think we're looking at 45X, and how it works in concert with the affordability piece also.
Okay, and just to also speak to what you're negotiating with HPD, what programs are you looking at specifically?
We haven't, like I said, we haven't really gotten to that level. We've just gotten to the point now where we're pushing for meetings with HPD, talking with the councilwoman about strategies. So we're just getting to that point.
All right, thank you so much. I think we have to finish up so that we can start our business session and vote on these two projects. But we want to thank all of the members of the public for coming out and welcome to stay for the business session. It's just that although just the board members will be speaking. And thank you all. Thank you all three.
Serrano, present. Teresa Westergaard, present. Okay, and John Wolfling, by the way, has resigned from the committee. So I think everyone is here except for Cheryl. Unfortunately, she's not doing well. Okay, so we're going to start with 341 Troy. Does anyone have any general comments, discussion that you want to have? I'll allow maybe about 5 minutes before we have a resolution.
I would just make a motion, let's support, what wants to support, let's support, what wants to against.
Okay, anybody else want to have any general discussion on this issue?
No, I think we're already up to that.
So I think, my main question here, my main issue with this thing goes back to 2008, 2009, right? They've been before the BSA about 5 times now. I think the last time they came to our committee in 2022, they'd assured us that they were going to be finished with construction by 2024. And here they are today, they actually haven't done anything since 2022. And each time they come before the BSA, it's a different thing that's gone wrong, different thing that they have to change, different reason that they have an amendment. So, I'm kind of questioning, like, what's different this time, right? And I think there are a lot of questions outstanding from the committee about how this variance came about in the first place. It's a huge increase in zoning density. He's saying it's 1.35 originally, but I'm not sure that's quite accurate, because I don't know if you guys know this under the R4 zoning, a 1.35 is for built-up areas. That means that more than 50% of the block is built. And that's a very large block that covers almost the entire block. So I'm not sure that that qualifies for a built-up area. And if it doesn't qualify for a built-up area, the actual FAR that's permitted is 0.75. And they're going up to a 2.6. That's like over a 300% increase. As somebody mentioned, normally for this type of increase, as the other guys are saying, when we increase density, we get affordable housing back. What we're getting here is all luxury condos. So in my mind, like, if this were to happen today in 2025, I don't think this variance would go through. And I question even back in 2022, the extension that happened, how did that happen? Right? But that, be that as it may, we understand that they have the right to build what they were granted to build already by the BSA, and they have the right to build as right if we choose not to make use of the variance. But it's just, I've heard the concerns of the public about the fact that so much of the development is not for them. About, the fact that these luxury condos are non-affordable for them. So, that's just my comment. Does anyone want to?
Yeah, can you clarify how that is relevant to what they're asking? Meaning to say, how any of this, they're asking within the existing structure that some smaller and some larger apartments, right? Everything you're saying is valid, and there's no relevance to the request. I think, and somebody else forgot, I think we should look at the request. Do we have an issue with smaller apartments becoming larger and larger becoming smaller?
I think my question is, how does this really, make any difference whatsoever? My question is about the pattern of behavior over the last 15 years. They do this, they've been doing this consistently, making these small sort of changes, right? I think there's an issue that's raised to, sort of good faith here about dragging this variance out for 15 years, getting the variance approved at a time when the market was, as you say, when the market was one thing, and essentially dragging it out until the market is much, much higher. And that's not the purpose of a variance. The purpose of a variance is not for people to time the market, it's to deal with a site condition. And if the market has changed, the financial analysis that goes along with it needs to change constant, small amendments, I think, for me, raises an issue of good faith of how they're treating the variance process.
Is there an amendment to the footprint of the building?
There is not an amendment to the footprint of the building, but I think my question, is, it's, as I said, it goes to the good faith of the applicant of what they've been doing with the variance process.
Punishing them.
I guess it's just a matter of when will this come to an end? Are they finally gonna build this building so that we can, the community, whoever, can actually move in and can go on?
I agree.
Yeah, 100%.
So the question is, voting it down, is that gonna slow the process?
No, I think you're just raising a concern that this needs to come to an end. Like, how many times have we been extended?
But, I mean, do we have the authority to tell him that he has a limit as to when he can build?
No, I think we can say whatever we want to say, that the SA is going to do what
I
they
agree. I think looking at an empty lot is a nuisance, and you already have the Verizon building across the street that there's no windows, and it's also.
I just want to point out, bringing up the 2010 recession is embarrassing for a reason as to why something hasn't been built and has been sitting vacant. And so I understand questioning what is this really about and not necessarily looking at the request at face value for what it is and really, adding more context to the analysis.
Okay, but I think in this case, if it's a minor adjustment to what he plans on building, he's not changing anything with the footprint of the building.
If it's minor, what's wrong with us saying?
I think, I mean, it's not changing, it's not affecting you. You're, as an outsider, you're not gonna see any difference
So
to,
it's not going to get built if it's not a minor change?
well, I don't think that, but I think that, like, if it could potentially get built faster if you approve it.
Could potentially.
Yeah.
I
If this is what
think
the plan
that
is.
the problem, are we saying that it was bad behavior, he has to be punished for bad behavior? Is that what we're saying? Then that's what I'm hearing.
Well, we're just saying we don't.
I mean, I think it's more of a.
If we have to look and see, is this gonna have a negative effect on the community or
I
not?
think it's
Or
more of a
only-
concern to me that it's already negatively affecting the community, that we have luxury condos, from an upzoning as opposed to a percentage of affordable housing. That's my concern.
I think we also have to look at the outside, and you have people that grew up in the community and would like to buy a condo. I grew up in the community, I would consider buying a condo there. I have, my parents live a couple blocks away, my in-laws live a couple blocks away. There aren't any houses to buy. If there is a house, it's upwards of $2 million, which I don't have. So condos is the perfect middle ground where it's like, you're not renting, you feel like you have a home to raise your family, and it's a great benefit to the community. Is it affordable housing? No, but I mean, affordable housing is good and condos are good. As far as luxury, I think it gets sold as luxury just for tax purposes, and they are paying a high tax bracket. But I mean, it's just a condo. We should really consider it luxury.
And there isn't a property tax rate for condos now, I would note that.
Right.
So the property tax.
I mean, we should have it built. If it's going to be built, it should be built now. Everyone agrees to that. So if this is going to make it go faster, it could. I can't guarantee it. I don't know. We don't. But at the same time, we don't.
Years to do it, so how do we know?
But
You're gonna take another 15 years.
You think it's gonna be faster if we deny it? Is that what you're saying?
No,
I don't think it's gonna be faster if we deny it.
Put the message out, this needs to come to.
Yeah, is there a way to communicate as
We
part
need
of
to
our?
communicate to the BSA that this needs to come to.
Yeah,
an
So,
end.
is there an expiration date?
Yeah, no, aren't you, I mean, I'm not tired of Empire looking like it is, I'm sure you're tired.
100%. Yeah, we're tired of both. And the goal is that, like, if it's going to happen, let it happen now. Let's not.
If there's a way to communicate to him, to Yaku's point, I don't think like changing the size of the interior is gonna impact like our neighbor's lives at some level, but there has to be a way to communicate to them that like they should be moving on this. So maybe there's a way to put those two together until like the vote and say we're fine with these changes, but like you have to move on this and we're gonna start having problems with further approvals. And maybe that's a consensus thing to do.
The other, I think, real concern here in terms of quality of life is the environmental cleanup. I think that, he's not in the brownfield program, which is a stricter program. He hasn't moved on the remediation in 10 years. And normally remediation is done even before rezonings are approved, before, any kind of permits are approved. So, how is that going to be monitored?
My only suggestion is you do have the option of just creating a resolution in which you vote yes or no, plus put whatever stipulations or concerns you have.
You could say it's the last provision, to Max's point. You could say, we support stipulating the last time that we're gonna do this.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna suggest. I'm gonna suggest that, you know, at the present time, Community Board 9 has many outstanding concerns, about the previous history of the project and how long it has taken the applicant, to take any action, including, environmental remediation, since the variance was originally granted in 2009. And we're also concerned about the size of the way in which the variance process has been used, to get an almost 350% upzoning, in a climate when such upzonings would now require affordable housing. Given that, while, you know, we understand that the applicant has the right to build under the existing PSA grant, for which it has a deadline of 2026. We do not expect that, you know, we would approve any further extensions or revisions. We do hope the applicant is able to build something productive for the community. I wonder if maybe you know, to speak to some people, we're talking about the community facility issue, and you mentioned that actually was something they had considered at some point. I wonder if we might want to say something along the lines of, like, you know, while we're not able to issue a positive recommendation at this time, we urge the applicant to continue speaking to the community and to the Board of Standard and Appeals regarding regarding a development that would be productive for as wide a swath of the community as possible.
Is that what happened?
I think that's slightly different. So I know it's slightly different from the point I was making, which is I'm applying with a positive recommendation on this. That would be the only change I was recommending, but I agree with the other points you're making. So it's a positive recommendation with the stipulation that there is issue of mediation, this is taking forever, and if they come to us again, there might be problems. So I think that is what I was trying to recommend. I apologize.
The PSA approval expires in 2026?
Yes.
When is, I missed that part, I'm sorry.
They have gotten an extension in 2022 until 2026.
And by 2020, what?
They have to be done building.
They have to be done building, they have to start.
They have to be done building.
All right, so they're not gonna make it. They're not gonna make it. It's 2 years, they're not gonna make it. They're not. Anyhow, it's gonna take them 6 months for remediation. You know? And they have to start making it. They're not gonna make it. I know, and we will check.
I want to make a comment about environmental remediation on the similar site, on the Empire Sullivan Bedford site. It was a similar site, a gas station. They did absolutely no environmental remediation at all, where they should have, and they just plowed through. And all that dust, all the contamination just left. You know, so why not just let them go ahead? I mean, nobody cares at this point.
Do we want to add? Oh,
But you know,
Teresa, do we want to add a condition of our approval that they enroll in the brownfield cleanup program?
I think that they do remediation, for sure. I want them to, but I'm just saying, as soon as they said they didn't, nothing was required there. Why?
So they're going with the Office of Environmental Remediation, something rather, which I'm not familiar with. I don't. So what I'm familiar with,
They're gonna do the cleanup,
is
so.
the brownfield cleanup, and so maybe we want to say, like, yes, we'll issue a positive recommendation contingent on them enrolling in the brownfield cleanup program and completing approval.
Can they enroll?
I think
Can they even enroll in there?
I don't think it's our place to force them into a program. They seem to have been aware of it. Our main thing is that the remediation needs to occur.
Yeah.
I agree. I think it's just important that we have concerns about that remediation that is done properly and completely. After that, I mean, it's like whatever mechanism that happens, that ESA mandates, that's on them, but I can support them and tell them. That is a concern of the community, that this needs to be complete, you know, and, get it done. Get it done, get it done
That's
well.
important to protect the air, the
the water, everything in that community needs to be protected. Unlike what happened on Empire, Sullivan, Bedford, this needs to be protected. I mean it's kind of a joke, but I'm very serious about protecting our community, doing the environmental remediation. I think that needs to be the most important thing besides going ahead and getting it done.
And do we want to add anything about, working with the community on possible community facility access?
He said yes, he said that it could be.
It's just like.
They rejected it in 2010.
Somebody make a
That's
motion.
what, I mean, it's, like they said, I mean, the footprint's not changing, all they're doing is reducing the
So
size.
what I'm gonna do is write out the other things as whereases, and, that will be part of our resolution and contingent on, contingent on the cleanup being completed and approved by the relevant agencies. Is that good?
Sounds good.
Okay. Does everybody
Yeah, that's fine.
approve? Okay, so I'm gonna send out the resolution to Dante, I'm gonna write up the whereases that we talked about, and send that to Dante and to Mia.
Are we taking a vote on this?
Yes?
Yes?
Okay.
Okay, everybody in favor?
No, is there a motion on for?
Okay, oh, sorry, okay.
Okay.
So, make a motion that we vote to approve this application contingent on, environmental, remediation being completed and approved properly by the relevant agencies, and also to state, that our concerns regarding their use of the variance process, the length of time it's been taken, and what happens if they're not complete by 2026.
Yes.
Do I have a second? Second? Okay.
Aye.
We have any nays? We have any nays? No. Okay, the motion passes. Extensions? Okay, the motion passes. Thank you. Okay, let's talk about 7399 Empire. I'll take 10 minutes of general discussion on this, and then I need a resolution from someone.
Well, the one question I was not asked, Eli, what happens if you guys just do the commercial portion of it as a right? You do have the option to go on the R6 side and build. But what, if you do not build any units over there, what would determine your decision to build there?
To build residential, to
Yeah.
build in general.
Residential.
So, yeah, again, it's more of like, that's a developer kind of question, I guess it's determined, based on what he thinks he could, not yield enough revenue from just the commercial portion, and if he feels like he would like to, add more revenue, then he would do the residential. Again, that's more of a question for their seats to analyze, yeah.
All right, because we're not feeling more apartments built in this community. We just don't want it, because it just doesn't serve the purpose. For all the buildings, I mean, we have close to 1,500 units built right now in our community, so another, 200, it's just gonna add to the density that we have in this community, so.
And have to be affordable to the people.
What are our options?
We have,
What are our options?
we have two options. Either they have this retail
We have a range of options.
range
Did
of
everybody get my email, regarding the range of options? There's like at least 6 or 8. There's many zoning possibilities. There is a
Forget that. What are our options regarding this proposal before us? Not regarding.
We can vote for any of the possibilities in between we can vote for the as of right, which is a no, with no conditions. We can vote for any of the possibilities in between the as of right and the developer's proposal, which is either a yes with conditions or a no with conditions. Or we can vote for the developer's proposal as is, which is a yes with no
With
conditions.
provisions.
So we actually have like 7 or 8 possibilities.
I would like to make a comment.
Sure, you
Okay, so that site, Empire Boulevard, the commercial district, it's very rare And, for example, our office for our community board, we don't have enough office space. Why is Brian Cunningham on the wrong side of the street for his district? He can't find a place to have his office. Our board needs a larger office. There's lots of people that need commercial space and offices in this district. We need commercial space. We're desperate for it, as you can tell, right? We are
Affordable
desperate. And we
office
need
space,
it.
not
And we
office
need it, and
space.
we need jobs, and we need to
Affordable
develop
office
commercial
space.
space there. And a grocery store is just like, okay, but we need a lot more. Like, there's a lot of money out there that can be spent on office space. There's a lot of it, including this board. This board, we need it. You know what they're in now? It sucks. It's too small. It's badly designed. You know, we need a better space. And we're not the only ones. It's just, you know.
We need a large footprint.
Yeah.
Well, I said that for 2 years, by the way. Commercial space, at least a year.
I suggested it.
It was empty for years.
I suggested it.
I know.
So let's get some more commercial.
No, it's not going to.
Let's do it. I don't know, like, Target, we haven't got enough of that. I think retail has, is questionable, like this future of retail, but there's a lot of other possibilities for commercial here that we should explore, and I think the developers should.
I think Suki said at the last few meetings, we want to have a voice in the process, right? So what's clear to me over the East New York process, where they're building like 600 units, where everybody, around is opposed. Everybody in government, whether it's the Assembly, whether it's the Senate, whether it's the governor, whether it's City Hall, whether it's the borough president, want affordable. Everybody wants affordable. This is the only board that votes down affordable.
Yeah, but wait a second. No, that's not true.
In government,
When you talk about affordability, you need to take a look around here alone. One Sullivan, a studio apartment costs $3,500. Tell me, who in this neighborhood?
no, so I'm on the same page. I agree.
But who in this room?
There was.
We would like to have people who actually make an AMI of power of $50,000 to be able to live in their community.
So I'm agreeing with you. So can we get there or not? Can we come forward and say, we want affordable for the community? Can we get to that place?
Well, that's very good.
But it's not.
I don't see how we get to that place. The workers are not in the business of actually making money for the
Max
workers.
has a comment, and then Fred.
Do you want to go right first? Maybe one way to show something which I think is a little challenging about the project is that they don't have the financing lined up for the additional 20+% of units,
That's what I
which would be affordable, and I think that's a good concern to be raising. With that said, like if those additional, say 20% of units to get over 50% would be meaningfully affordable, then that's the type of thing which like I would personally be open to supporting, given there is such a need for deeper affordability. And this 30% of units at each AMI is probably not what we want. So what might be possible is some sort of like provisional saying, we're open to this if those additional 20% of units are at, throwing a number, say 60% AMI or lower, 50% or lower. That might be one way to thread the needle, where like we have a target for how deep we want the affordability for the project overall, and trying to provide affordable housing.
But you realize I'm not in one.
Fred.
Yeah, no, I think Max really hit it. Tell, vote on what your number is. We want 50% of the units to be at X amount of, whatever the AMI is, based on whatever the community is. So I'm just saying this is the opportunity. What number affordability do you want? So if it's not 60%, what is that number? I heard that people were saying office space, commercial, that is something that is priced. So say that. Okay, we are looking at, whatever the proposal is that you guys decide. Affordability, that we want to make sure that there is a protection of, quality of life in the district as well. The things that, other concerns, just say that, so that way you can go back to the table with the principles that you say, listen, if we want to talk, let's talk seriously, this is what we have to agree to.
Okay, so we can talk affordability any other area of this community. This is Empire Boulevard. This is the one commercial strip that we have. We don't want to start breaking the zone and creating a trickle effect. We don't want to do that. That's always been our guiding principle since 2010 at least. Right? And so I don't want to start negotiating. We've heard from back in the 2014. We've heard from back in the day that this area is too expensive for the deep affordability that we would need. And so far, that has proven out. We have yet to see a project that has given us the affordability for the people in this community to actually live in. And I don't see that this will be any different on that part.
And that's exactly what I was just simply saying, is that it doesn't really matter if we set up the affordability that we want. They will not agree to it.
Well,
We can put it in the same.
they'll promise, get the rezoning, and then they won't do it.
And then it will.
I think you're all raising valid points.
Esteban,
But we are not,
Yoko, let Esteban go first and then you.
So, how long has, I mean, this was certified already and we know about it. They haven't engaged with us up until this point, so I feel like saying, oh, we're just gonna trust you to get this certain AMI that we're gonna have. Like, that doesn't make any sense because they could have come to us a long time ago. We've been speaking with the council members since the fall of last year.
Yeah.
So we have, like, to think that they're approaching us in good faith would be not wise, I don't think.
So first of all, I think it's important to, again, reiterate that we are not the deciding body. We're either gonna have input in this process or we're not gonna have input. If we say no, whatever's gonna happen with,
Our input.
can I finish, please? With all due respect, can I finish? I'm on this board for 10 years, we voted everything down, it almost always goes through. We have a chance now to vote it down, or to say we only agree to these terms and conditions. Bottom line, when it comes to city council, wherever it is, they're gonna do what they're gonna do anyway. Will we have input, or won't we have input? Voting it down does not mean it's not gonna happen, or it's gonna happen at the AMI we want. That's not the way it works. So we can come forward and say, we absolutely insist, support this project, these is what we need. And maybe we'll get it, maybe we won't. But if we vote it down, they're gonna negotiate, we're gonna have no input at all. That's number one. What's the second thing you said, Esteban? You talked about, you had a second point.
Communication between the
Yeah,
city council.
no, just the communication between the developer and us, and the fact that we're having a vote on this.
Without any real.
Yeah, no, wait, let me answer. You're here, they should have been here a lot earlier, we tried to get them to come earlier.
But Esteban, I want to tell you, we're both on this board, on this committee for 10 years, very close to it, right? This is the first time the developer came here and said, you asked for parking, you got parking. You asked for affordable, we're trying to give you affordable. You asked for grocery, we're giving you a grocery. It's the first time that I remember the developer ever came forward and said, we looked at crystals, we looked at the board, we never had it before. I'm not saying support the project to give them a green light. All I'm saying is we follow our 10-year history of just voting it down. We've always voted it down with reasons. We've never, and we've always been ignored.
And so, if we now say, oh,
I'll tell you this. We're happy. All I'm saying is we voted down. We have no say.
no conditions is a yes.
I am, but I basically shocked that, like, here it is, vote on it. You support it or you don't. And there's been 100% with Esteban, I mean, 1,000% with Esteban. There have been other projects, 960 they've come before us multiple times, over years-long process. Multiple times it's presented, there's been conversations, there's been communication, and yeah, you know, at the end, I mean, it maybe sounds like we kind of got what most of what we want. You know, I haven't dived into the affordability and AMI on 960, but for this developer, okay, to come and really just sort of dump this on in our laps and say they got certified last week without any presentation prior to community board is really beyond, it's disrespectful, it's beyond unfortunate, and it does not put the project in a good light, does not put my feelings about the project isolated from this process. I think this could be I have disagreements, I will disagree, we all have our own opinions. I mean, it's a 2-block stretch of it's from Franklin, whatever you want to call it, Washington, Franklin intersection to here, right? It's this 2-block section where that's all we're talking range of community facilities to not have residential here, to be that neighborhood. To not.
There we go.
We have so much residential in this
Hector,
area.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
If you were to build the all-commercial option for the C1 on the back, is it possible that at any point in the future you could convert that to residential as of right? Like, let's say we built 2 floors of retail on the back, is it possible at some point you could decide to convert it to residential?
The zoning would have to change.
Yeah, it's probably very challenging to convert commercial to residential just like that. I mean, as you know, there's light and air requirements for residential, there's all these other components to a residential building, and you're seeing that challenge throughout the city. We have all these vacant commercial office buildings that are very challenging to convert to residential. So I imagine that would not happen. If we built commercial, we would not be, the likelihood to convert that to residential down the road would
So
be.
legally
But
possible.
over by Costco's, they made them
Yes.
lost.
I do think, you know,
On any guys from Food
while
Lion,
36 stories
you
is
know,
higher,
you go down and you come out from Costco's on that big highway.
I think this is
Over
sort of a unique
They
site
used to be aware.
where going
They made them
higher
lost.
than what would be typical makes more sense.
Hey, that's fine. You know, they
I
only
mean,
still
it,
want
no,
to
we could say that, oh, we want things happening.
It's lost.
Things are being developed.
Oh,
This is a site where there aren't sort of the same direct displacement structures. This is a site that's not being
No
used
shadows.
for, there's no shadows, right? It's surrounded by a bunch of tall
So we're big warehouse.
And so I do think that this is a unique circumstance. Everyone says identify good lots to develop. This seems like one of those lots.
Can we say it has to be 60% AMI? Otherwise, we propose, can we say that?
I would love to do that.
Yeah.
So can I make so, in terms of, like, you might not have direct displacement, but anything that happens in this area raises the prices of everything in the surroundings, right? So, your secondary displacement, that's definitely a thing. Yeah, I think that, like, what it's gonna affect is the apartments that aren't gonna stabilize, and they're quite a few. Also, like homes, with people that have like 1 tenant or 2 tenants, those people are gonna be under a threat of being priced out, being priced out of the unit. So there is, displacement that will happen. The city knows that when they put these forward, because they do mitigation efforts to prevent that displacement, even though the mitigation efforts don't usually work. So we have to contend with that. And I just think that, I mean, having come here and do this right now, without any background, it's beyond disrespectful. To me, it's impossible. Like, if you give me an option of like, well, what you will say, to some degree it's true, like we haven't said no to everything, but because we've said no to everything, they have to come in with something better. This is what happened with the Bedford Union Army. We said no, and we kept saying no, and they kept negotiating closer to what we would have normally wanted, and then we end up with something decent. Like, that's how negotiation works. You don't
We
give
brought it down to the last proposal also.
It still resulted in a better outcome than what they were trying to
What they
negotiate.
were trying to do from the very beginning was absolutely unacceptable. But we got a better deal for that armor.
And I can't afford to
And
swim.
it could have been 100%. It could have been 100% affordable. It would have been way better.
So there's the process, right, which is all taken, and then there's the actual project, right? Let's say we're 50% affordable, and it was, deeper than 80%, and obviously 60% on average. Would you be opposed to that as well? Trying to just separate the process and the actual outcome. I know it's difficult.
I mean, the difficulty is, we have absolutely no reason to think that any of the numbers that you just said, or any numbers that we say here in the resolution are what's gonna happen. Because they couldn't answer any of our questions about it, and so it's tied to process, right? I would love to say this is exactly the kind of breakdown that we would like. I haven't had time to look at it, so I don't even know what makes sense. These are the kind of have with the developer. So anything that we say right now is not enforceable, and it's just literally just our wish list. They don't have to abide by
And
it.
if we say, one more question, sorry, if we say no, that's also not enforceable, correct? I'm not trying to give you a hard time, I'm just trying to.
Yeah, no.
Well, okay, in the context of, what can the community board say and not say, our recommendation is none of our recommendations are ever binding.
Yes.
Right? But the point is that a no is a no, that's a clear answer. A yes is a yes, that's a clear answer. A recommendation for a particular zoning is a clear answer. But what I've been saying to folks is if you're asking for a percentage of affordable housing that is above what the MIH law outlines, right? In other words, the MIH law is like 20% affordability for if you want 40% of AMI, that's the deep affordability, it's 25. If you want 60% of AMI, and it's 30 to 80% of AMI, right? If you want to go above those numbers, then you're going outside of the MIH legal framework, and that needs to be negotiated. And we, in saying we want a particular zone, cannot enforce that. The council is going to have to come up with, essentially you have to negotiate with height and density, or really with density or subsidies to go above and beyond that. So, my comment on this is, we're being asked to negotiate downwards, to like play defense backwards from the developer's proposal of 14 stories and 7.2 density, which is a 300% increase in what they're allowed to do currently, right? We're like frantically trying to like claw back a little bit, when the way that we should be viewing this is we should be starting at the current density of 2.0, and half of it cannot be residential, it's, commercial, and, only allowing them to go up if we get, as much as possible. That's how you get as much as possible for the community, is by saying the baseline is what it is, you don't have a problem with that, and if you want to go higher because it's profitable for you, then this is what we require in return. So that's my recommendation to you all.
To try and synthesize, I knew I was trying to synthesize that. So let's say like the baseline is all, functionally would all be commercial, right?
Oh.
So would that look like saying like all commercial unless if you get, say, 40%, then you can build, say, 6 stories, and then if you go to 12 stories, then you can build 50%. Is that, trying to synthesize what you're saying to me?
Yeah, my recommendation to you is starting with, the CH2 R6, right? Any upzoning, right, like we have members who say they don't want to break the CH2. Okay, so let's go with that. We're going to keep the CH2 on one side. On the other side, we're going to allow upzoning of the R6. But any upzoning above the R6 density, which is 2.43, has to go to affordable housing. That's essentially the way City of Yes is working. Any upzoned density has to be affordable at 60% of AMI. And I think that's the way that we should treat it too. So if we go from a 2.43 to, let's say, a 3.6, which is the R6A MIH, 1.2 has to be affordable, right? If we go to a 4.0, then 1.6 has to be affordable. If we're going to the 7.2, that means 75% is affordable. And I think that's the way I would do it. I would say any amount that you increase the density, all of that has to be affordable. You're not getting any additional market rate housing.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Can we, because it's a little confusing to me, the difference. Can we vote yes on the commercial and no under residential, but say the reason is you want 60% AMI, which is sort of leaving it opening. You want it to be within 50%, 60% AMI. That way, we're doing, we're still having a voice in the process.